Have you ever told someone, I'm just so burnt out? But deep down, if you were brutally honest, you knew it wasn't about being tired. It was something else, something heavier, something that almost felt like numbness, like your soul was leaking out of you slowly, bit by bit, like you were running in circles, chasing tasks that don't matter, performing a life that doesn't challenge you, doesn't light you up. And it never really did. Let me hit you with a hard truth that most people don't want to hear. You're not burnt out. You're bored. And what's worse? You're bored because you've been playing small. Welcome back to Hard Truths, the place where we break through the noise, challenge the way you think, and talk about the things that are really holding you back. No fluff, no feel-good delusion, just straight up raw clarity designed to shake you up and wake you up. Let's go in. We live in a world where everyone's quote unquote burnt out. It's trendy. It's socially acceptable. You say, I'm burnt out, and people nod with empathy. You get a pass, you get permission to stop. But let me ask you, are you actually burnt out? Or are you exhausted from doing uninspiring shit all day long? Because burnt out and boredom look the same on the surface, right? But underneath, a whole different beast. Burnt out is what happens when you're operating at full intensity, driven by passion, for too long without rest. Boredom, on the other hand, is what happens when you've turned your life into a to-do list that doesn't challenge who you are, doesn't activate your curiosity, and doesn't connect to your deeper purpose. And most people, especially the high-functioning, smart, capable ones, they aren't burnt out. They're just running on autopilot, doing safe, small things. See, pretending it's exhaustion when it's really neglect of self-potential. This isn't an energy crisis. It's a soul crisis. A couple years ago, I hit what I thought was burnt out. I was getting everything done. On paper, I was crushing it. Deadlines met. Projects launched. Inbox, zero. Zilch. But every morning, I woke up feeling heavy. Not physically tired. Spiritually hollow. I mean, like you wake up and you just feel like it's just another day. You're doing the same thing, same shit. I started saying things like, I just need a break. I'm so overwhelmed. And my favorite, I don't have time for anything anymore. But one night, I caught myself scrolling on LinkedIn, looking at someone who just launched a project I dream of doing for years. And it hit me like a brick. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just underliving. See, I had outsourced my days to efficiency and predictability. I stopped chasing what made me feel alive. I stopped building. I stopped risking. I stopped rising. And that, right there, is when boredom starts to rot your potential. All right, now let's get into the real engine behind this whole thing. The brain. The body, the psychology. Because once you understand how your nervous system works, you stop fighting the wrong enemy. And right now, the enemy, it isn't your calendar. No, it's the lack of challenge in your life. So let's break this down. See, most people think dopamine is about pleasure. You do something fun, you get a little hit of dopamine, and boom, you're happy. That's the common belief. But that's not how it works. Dopamine is actually about anticipation. It's not the reward. It's the chase. It's what your brain releases when you're striving towards something that matters. That's why when you're working towards a goal that excites you, even if it's hard, you feel alive, energized, engaged. Let me ask you something. Have you ever pulled an all-nighter for something you cared about? Maybe a project you're passionate about, a trip you are packing for, a business you are building, or even just planning something big. Sure, you were exhausted the next day. Maybe. But did you feel drained while you're doing it? Hell no. You felt on fire because your dopamine was high. You were working towards something that mattered. Hell, it's 2:30 a.m. I have a newborn and I'm doing this right now for you guys. This is great. Now compare that to doing 8 hours of shallow tasks that you don't care about. You might have slept well the night before. Maybe you had your coffee. But by hour 2, you're yawning, checking your phone, brain fog rolling in like a storm. That's not burnout. That's dopamine deprivation. That's boredom dressed up in busyness. So let me talk about something else here. Let's follow up. Let's talk about the flow state. This is important. It's a psychological term coined by Molly C. Okay? Flow state is that state where you lose track of time, forget to check your phone, and you're just in it, fully immersed, fully alive, zero resistance. You've been there before. You just might not have had the words for it, but now you do. Have you ever been working on something and hours have just passed without you even noticing? Or maybe you were learning a new skill, playing a sport, writing something deep, coding, designing, building, and for that window of time, nothing else existed. That's flow. And scientifically, here's what's happening. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-criticism and time awareness, it shuts down. It goes to sleep. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and anandamide flood your system, sharpening focus and enhancing creativity. You feel effortless, energized, connected. But here's the catch. Flow only happens when challenge meets skill. Not too easy, not too hard, right in the stretch zone. If you're a talented writer stuck with captions, if you're a visionary thinker trapped in endless meetings, if you're a high-capacity leader doing an administrative task every day, you're going to feel like your soul is dying. Not because you're burnt out, but because your brain is screaming for a challenge that matches its potential. Okay, let's also talk about identity dissonance. This one's big, and it's subtle. You might think you're tired. You might think you need a break. But underneath that, what's really going on is an identity dissonance. Here's what that means. Your actions are starting to challenge the story you have about who you are. And that conflict, it's uncomfortable as hell. Say you've always seen yourself as the dependable one or the behind-the-scenes person. But suddenly, you feel this tug to create something bold, to lead, to speak, to step into the spotlight. Now, your nervous system goes, wait, that's not who we are. That's not safe. And who do you think you are, trying to rise like that? So instead of rising, you retreat, you collapse, you blame burnout. Because it's easier to say I'm tired than to say I'm scared of outgrowing who I always have been. That's not exhaustion. That's fear of becoming the next version of yourself. And here is the final nail in the coffin. There's this loop that people get stuck in. Comfort to boredom to numbness to anxiety to more comfort. Like an endless, deep, recursive loop. You get comfortable. Comfort leads to understimulation, and that leads to low dopamine, low challenge, low engagement. You start feeling numb, anxious, lost. So what do? You scroll, you binge, you nap, you go back to comfort. And the cycle repeats. But you can break it, not by slowing down, but by stretching forward. See, you don't need less on your plate. You need something worth reaching for. Okay, I want to take a step back. Hold on, and let's be fair. See, real burnout does exist, especially in high-pressure fields like healthcare, teaching, and caretaking. See, chronic stress, emotional labor, and lack of autonomy can destroy your nervous system. That is not what I'm attacking. For most people listening to this, you're not in survival mode. You're in sedation mode. You're not overwhelmed by too much stress. You're overwhelmed by too little meaning. Here's the hard line. You are not burnt out. You are bored. You are not overwhelmed. You are under-inspired. You are not exhausted. You are just playing small. And you know it. That low-level anxiety, that creeping numbness, that voice that whispers, there's more than this. It's not something to numb. It's something to listen to. That's your soul banging on the inside of your ribcage, screaming, stop playing pretend. Step the hell up. You want to feel alive again? Risk more. Build something scary as hell. Say yes to the projects that terrify you. Make the phone calls that raise the stakes. Start the thing that you've been avoiding because it might actually work. See, your energy isn't dead. It's just buried under tasks that don't match your calling. Here are some things I do when I feel burnt out. I ask, am I actually exhausted? Or am I just avoiding something that would require me to evolve? Then I move, not towards rest, but towards stretch. I block out time to do something bold, write something uncomfortable, build something uncertain, take on a challenge I don't feel quite ready for. And suddenly, the fog lifts, energy returns, dopamine flows, life feels electric again. Not because I slowed down, but because I woke up. Let me leave you with a quote from Viktor Frankl. When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. Burnout might not be your enemy. Comfort is. Distraction is. Your smallness is. So my challenge to you is this. Where are you confusing comfort with recovery? Where are you labeling boredom as burnt out? Just to avoid stretching into your potential. Write it down. Own it. Change it. And that's it for today's episode of Hard Truths. If this hit you hard, good. That means you're ready. Don't just nod along and go back to autopilot. Take one action today that scares the hell out of you. And tag me, Danny Livin, DANNYLYVIN. I want to see what you actually do with this. Not what you plan, not what you intend, what you do. This has been Hard Truths, where we don't call to comfort, we challenge it. You're not burnt out, you're just not playing big enough. Yet.